Welcome to the Western Hunter Podcast. I'm Chris Denham, your host. The Western Hunter Podcast is brought to you by Browning, the best there is. No other firearms company has changed the course of American history quite like Browning. In 1855, John Moses Browning was born in Ogden, Utah, not far from the current headquarters. At the age of 14, he built a slide-action rifle out of spare parts for his brother's birthday. By the age of 24, he was awarded his first U.S. patent for the single-shot rifle. Browning's inventions included rifles like the Winchester 1885, the 1886, 1890, as well as the 1894 and the 1895. Those models are often referred to as the guns that won the West. His Colt 1895 machine gun effectively ended the Spanish-American War. Then came the 1911 485 ACP, the most famous pistol in American history. And let's not forget the BAR and the 50 caliber Browning machine gun. This list is a small fraction of John Browning's contributions to the firearms industry. This spirit of innovation with intention is alive and well to this day inside the headquarters in Morgan, Utah. Just take a look at the current line of X-Bolt rifles, A5 shotguns, and the incredible lineup of over and under shotguns. But Browning is a lot more than just guns. They have an outstanding line of safes, flashlights, knives, ammunition, shooting accessories, and clothing, including the Hell's Canyon Speed line that Nate Simmons and I have been wearing for the past 6 years. Do yourself a favor and go to Browning.com and get lost in some of the most advanced outdoor gear available. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Western Hunter Podcast. I know it's been a while, and I know I've promised many times that we're going to be more consistent, but in 2025, which is what we actually are in now, we are going to be more consistent. I'm here at the Western Hunting Conservation Expo in Salt Lake City with Ryan Holm. Ryan, I've known, the first time I met you, I just went to Bozeman. I don't even know why I was there, and I called you. And
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. And I remember, I was telling the team this morning, you're the first one that introduced me to a sauna. You were showing me this thing, and I'm looking at this computer screen going, this is amazing. And it's our tool that we use in our office now, too. But that was at Mystery Ranch.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away with the magnitude of what you were doing at Mystery Ranch, from the operation, the immensity of the operation in general. It was tenfold bigger than I even imagined it was.
Right.
And then just the complexity of all the stuff you were managing. How long were you at Mystery Ranch?
I was there for 13 years, so
okay.
I pretty much cut my teeth in the hunting outdoor space there. So it was quite a long time. But
13 years.
Yeah, that was I totally forgot about your visit there at that point.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
But I think I even forgot to say the reason we're talking today is Ryan has a new position. Ryan is what is the actual title you have with Leica?
I'm the director of marketing at Leica.
Okay.
So which is nice, because when I was at Mystery Ranch for all those years, we worked with Leica on a few different campaigns back in the day, like when CCAT was around.
Right.
I'm sure you remember him.
Oh, yeah.
We were working on that Searching for West film through Leica. So I spent a lot of time with them. So actually, when I got more into hunting, Leica was my primary optic that I was using. Yeah. So I got the best optic out of the gate, which I think I was pretty much spoiled from the beginning. Yeah. So that's kind of how that relationship kind of started for me. And so I've known like Hamilton and a couple other guys here at Leica still that have had a long tenure here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always respected with Leica, and there's only a few companies out there, is how many guys have been here forever. They've been with the brand for a long time. They know the brand.
Yeah, Mystery Ranch was the same way. Like we had 13, 20, 25, year, 10 years for a lot of employees there, and so we all knew each other. We know when we're going to go to the bathroom, because we spent so much time together. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it's nice to come into another brand that has that same, still privately owned, still kind of a family, community of individuals that really love the brand and have supported the brand with their lives and their time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been great to come to another brand and figure out how we're going to restart the marketing engine here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I was so excited when I heard they brought you on.
Yeah.
Because I've been working with Leica directly and indirectly for over 30 years now. I mean, Western Hunter Magazine, we started, this is year 25. So Leica was in our first issue. ever.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. I doubt there may have been some a few blank spots in those 25 years just with personnel changes and budget issues and stuff here and there. But yeah, I mean, Leica's been in Western Hunter magazine since the very first issue. I'll have to shoot some pictures and send you some of those early ads and some of the stuff we did 25 years ago.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting to see those actually. Yeah, because I've been diving through some of the issues, just seeing what we've been doing and what we've done, and it'd be great to see some of that historical content. So. Yeah,
even though 25 years sounds like a long time, but Leica, when did Leica really make that transition into the optics, like binoculars, rifle scope? Rifle scope's relatively new, but the binocular world.
Yeah, the binocular world. They started their first binocular was like in 1907. Yeah. So they've been doing glass for over a century. It's kind of like it's pretty impressive. They had like a start in the optics world. Like the Lights family was they were hunters. Mm-hmm. The whole family was, and so a big part of the reason for developing optics was just for themselves. Mm-hmm. And so it actually started as I feel like more of a passion project.
Right.
Because making cameras and other things like that were obviously what they were doing. They were doing a few other things in a couple of different marketplaces, but sporting optics was more of a passion project for them.
Yeah.
And throughout their beginning of their history, as the cameras were kind of going from manual to autofocus, and going from film to digital, Leica kind of they weren't fully keeping pace with the market change.
Right.
And so Sport Optics actually floated the company for quite a few years, even decades. I mean, you maybe even.
Oh yeah, I had the very first Leica digital camera. I had one, and in fact, my son's first elk, I took that picture with a Leica camera.
Yeah,
and his first Coues deer when he was 10 years old, and he's 32 now, so 22 years ago.
Right.
But it was. Not to get too far off the topic, but one thing I've noticed working with European optics companies especially is they don't pivot rapidly. They're committed to their products. And then meanwhile, the whole digital thing was happened so quickly. It just felt like the German companies were caught off guard a little bit by how fast it can happen. But I mean, Leica cameras today are still the newer ones. I mean, one of our guys in the office has one, and it's just whenever he brings it in, all of the camera geeks in our office just all look at it and hold it and just admire the quality of it.
Yeah. It's Leica. In the beginning, they actually invented the autofocus feature.
Really,
it was a patent.
Huh.
But since they were like, well, we don't need autofocus. We know how to manually focus. So they sold the patent.
Yeah.
To another company.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so it's like that's not necessarily like resistant to change.
Right.
But it's like it's more like, well, we just already know how to do those things. And so it's pretty incredible that they had invented a thing such as that's just so prominent in our world today. Like every phone, every other camera, so they're really, innovating and innovating beyond what they knew as far as like what was going to happen in the future with something of a technology like that.
Yeah.
So with binoculars, they were the first company to come out with a range-finding binocular.
Oh yeah, the original Givid.
Right.
It's still a legend in my mind because I was actually a Swarovski rep back then. And I was like 96, 97 when that original Givid came out, and it was huge. And I still remember Randy Omer telling me, Chris, the world has changed. Leica has changed the future. The reality of hunting has now changed.
Right.
And I said, you're really going to spend? It was like $3,500 back then, I think, for a pair of Givids, which was a ridiculous sum. Because back then, even the best 1042 binocular in the world was not even $1,000 yet. And yet we had this 8-power laser rangefinder that weighed 3 pounds and was absolutely huge. And he said it's going to change it's going to. And now, who doesn't have a laser rangefinder? Who doesn't have like 5 of them?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I first started getting into hunting, it was having a rangefinder. When I started like adult onset, it was having a rangefinder was a pretty big deal to know your range. So I can imagine like, going back and being in the days of like milling your target.
Oh yeah.
Like, and having to know like all the different data points, which I still really appreciate.
Oh, I know. It drives me nuts that I can't do it still. It's like, and it's a necessity. Personally, it's a necessity. I need to learn. It's like knowing how to use a compass.
Right.
I mean, you really ought to know how to use a compass.
Yeah.
But
because like if your battery dies in your rangefinder, which I've had happen before.
Sure.
Because you haven't replaced it and it sat in your garage for 6 months and then drained, and then you go back out and you forget to replace it. So yeah, this stuff can happen, and you're kind of SOL.
Yeah.
So you got to either go to like your zero stop, your zero like 100 or 200 yards to go make that shot.
Yeah.
If you don't have it with you. So yeah, there's definitely things that can fail, but yeah.
Yeah, like it just is. It's crazy how they pioneered laser rangefinding for sure, but that's one product that Leica's never let go of that lead position, in my opinion. I mean, it wasn't long before they had the full size Geovid downsized, and then they came out with the original LRF 400. I think it was the LRF 400. It was like the first handheld laser rangefinder.
Yeah.
And I went to SCI show with the Outdoorsmans, and again, I'm a Swarovski rep at this time still, but I'm working in my dealer's booth, and they sell, the Outdoorsman sold Zeiss and Leica and Swarovski, all the top brands. And we're at the SCI show the year that they introduced the LRF. And on the first night of the show, the four of us sat there in our room, because it was back when we did paper receipts. There was no, nobody at point of sale. It was like a dream. And we filled out like 400 pre-filled out forms for LRF 400s with tax and shipping. And then the next 2 days, we completely filled every one of those pieces of paper and had to make more of them. I think we sold like 500 of them at that one show.
That's crazy.
It was insane, and that's just, I mean, fortunately, consumer understood how important the laser rangefinder was, and Leica came out with it. It came out with it at I think it was $399, which was, again, we just stepped down from almost $3,000 to $400,
right?
And a quality product with good optics. Leica is electronics, the combination of electronics and optics. Yeah, Leica's never let go of that lead in the consumer's mind, even.
Yeah,
there's a lot more competition nowadays, but
yeah. And so I think what's the question I had when I got here as being a part of my actual position here now is like, well, where is Leica going in the future? Like, what's the next goal? Because I almost feel like after going through some of the training and stuff, it's like, how much more can you improve the glass quality?
Right.
I mean, it's pretty phenomenal, and it's interesting to watch. Those top companies like continue to make those like slight improvements that like revolutionize the glass as it keeps going up and up and up.
Yep.
And so, for Leica, they're doing some more stuff on the hardware side, but then it's also the software side.
Mm-hmm.
And what's nice about Leica, which I'm not sure whose vision was it was before, but Matthias, who's our main product manager in Germany, it seems like Leica's kind of going more towards the open ecosystem of software, and so allowing other, integrating their hardware with innovative technology. So that could be base maps, it could be Garmin, it could be Applied Ballistics. We'll soon have an integration with OnX.
Yeah.
And so we're integrating with all these leading technologies for Leica, which is something that just comes with the binocular. So if you have a Geovid Pro or a Geovid AB Plus, you'll continue to receive the benefits of those improvements. But yeah,
it's a bit mind-boggling. And in fact, our team yesterday, again, we're here at the Western Hunter Conservation Expo, but we were talking yesterday, and I sat down with 3 of my guys last night and said, okay, here's the deal, guys. This year, in the next 2 months, we need to get all these laser rangefinders, and we got to figure this stuff out again. We've been selling this stuff since the beginning of laser rangefinders, but it feels like the technology is growing faster than my brain can process it at times.
Right.
But at the SHOT Show, you talked about some of the integration, and it really feels like it's gone from being really kind of difficult to process to where it's coming back to the user interface is becoming like, okay, this makes more sense, to the average guy, the non-engineer.
Right. Yeah. How can you make, I think that's always been the user experience and the UI, especially on their camera side. The UI is what they're constantly improving, and their UI is usually vastly different than, say, Sony or Canon.
Right.
And so you almost have to learn a whole new UI system with Leica camera stuff. Same thing on the Leica side, but they want to simplify it so much that the user can figure it out without much knowledge of like how the product actually works.
Right. Nobody reads instruction manuals, so
nobody reads instruction.
You better make it as simple as possible.
Because it does. It gets complicated, especially when you start diving into the applied ballistics side. Like, as a beginning shooter, and myself included, I haven't been shooting long range stuff, and long range doesn't necessarily mean like distance. It's also like positional stuff, where you're changing how you're setting up for your shot, whether it's a higher angle or it's to be up on a barricade or whatever it is. But like a lot of these shooters, like there's so many numbers that are happening in your head, and so many things that you have to remember to adjust.
Yes. Yeah.
That Leica's trying to find its way to be a part of that solution without being a burden to the solution.
Yeah, great way to put it.
How can you minimize the amount of things that are moving? Because if you, myself included again, but when you show up and you've never shot like a competition, you usually bring like all your stuff.
Yeah.
2 tripods, 2 pairs of binoculars, like way too much gear, all your water and your food and all this, and everything's just like all over the place. And like you get up to shoot and you've got all these different things off of your rifle, whether you have like an Arca rail or a Picatinny rail, or you got something sort of card on the side of your rail, or you got your watch, or all these different components, your Kestrel. There's just all this information that's in front of you. And you have to learn how to how do I take all that and like simplify my process? Because some of the best shooters, their process is really simple.
Yeah.
It's not a ton of stuff. It's like they've figured out like, how can I tweak this to be more efficient?
Right.
And so I think that's where Leica, that same mindset is like, how do we become more efficient and make the shooter more efficient at the same time?
Yeah, and the simplicity of it is critical. So one thing I've definitely learned and noticed is that going to like a 3D shoot or a PRS match, NRL match, it's great. I mean, it's a great learning experience because you've got to work through all these issues, but the adrenaline and the intensity in hunting is probably tenfold greater. I mean, if you miss a target at a PRS match, you miss a target. First of all, you get another shot. You get another chance.
Right.
And if you blow it, there's always the next match. But you blow it on a 180-inch mule deer, they ain't coming back.
Right.
And in worst case scenario, you take a leg off because you missed your process. I was javelina hunting last week in archery javelina hunting, which is a kind of a low intensity hunt. We're all having fun. It's not.
Yep.
And anyways, it's a long story, but these javelina got spooked our way. I wasn't expecting this, and so I had to run back to my truck to get my bow, put my quiver together. Everything's happening super fast. And I get over, I find these javelina, they're moving up, and I laser my spot, and I draw my bow. I'm going to bury the pin. I'm just going to woof at him, and he's going to stop, and I'm going to shoot him. This is going to be easy. I get to full draw. I go to bury my pin, and I notice I have a flip out. I use the Option Archery Canyon Pounder, which has flip out pins. So normally there should only be one pin there because I always shoot. I already lasered it, so there should only be one pin because I shouldn't have the other pins in there. And I pull it up, and there's 3 pins there. It occurred to me, I did all of that, but I didn't actually look at my sight. I didn't change my sight. I'm at full draw. I have no idea if this sight's set for 25 or 80. I'm trying to remember the last time I shot my bow. What distance was I shooting? And all I could do was let down.
Right.
But it's just, there's only 4 steps I needed to do. I missed one because of the added adrenaline of hunting.
Yep.
Which is kind of a long story to kind of back up your point about simplicity. Simplifying your system as much as you can is critical. And to your point.
So from like range finding binocular, like we've gone from just like being a range finding binocular company leading this space, obviously, from the range that you can do on some of the binos and the hardware and all the quality of all that, but then the applied ballistics solution, like we've been working with applied ballistics, which I'll be honest, I thought Kestrel and applied ballistics was the same thing because I always used the Kestrel and I always had applied ballistics, but I didn't actually go into the depths of realizing that applied ballistics was its own company.
Right.
And that applied ballistics is doing an incredible job of supporting the evolution of the shooter and integrating with all these different brands and helping kind of lift applied ballistics and make it a solution for most everyone. Mm-hmm. And so going through that process with the GeoVid Pro, the GeoVid Pro AB Plus, the applied ballistics has become this thing for me, at least as a new shooter, is to get all your ballistics in there, to get all your information in there, so that when you go to range the target, it's going to give you your elevation drop, and then all that stuff is going to happen pretty immediately.
Right.
Going from a world where milling a target to the fact that you get all of your data in one spot, almost immediate feedback.
Right.
Being at the range. So it's always interesting to me. It's like talking with hunters today. They're always like, everything has to be like microseconds, but it's amazing to see. It's like, well, some of the people that you are using the product have used it for a long time, and for them, like, getting their data and all their information within like 3 to 5 seconds is not a big deal, because before they might have been taking minutes to do that.
Yeah. Cut charts and yeah.
You're like, so to go from like, and they're like, oh, I need instant, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty instant compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting to see like where the technology has come with that. So with the AB Plus, which is our highest end binocular, we're the only company in the industry right now that has applied ballistics on board the binocular. So you can do all of your data at the range, get all your stuff into your app, get all of your information in there. And then we actually have we can dive into this a little bit, called shot probability, which has been helpful for me and a lot of different people that, and shot probability is, the military side of that is the WES calculator. I'm not sure if you've heard about that much.
No, explain. That's the great background, I think, to this.
But so it's like, it's being able to understand your target and the probability of hitting that target. Mm-hmm. And for me, the feedback that you get at the range is either you have your target card up and you can see, you're hitting where your impacts are on your card, at 100 yards or 200 yards, depending on your zero. And then you go out, to go shoot steel or like further and further targets. And you have all your data and all your information. As a shooter, like, you might hit that 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 all the way up to 1,000-yard target, but maybe one of those times you missed, or maybe several times you missed based on wind or other conditions, and you don't really know why you missed, because you knew the range and you knew the wind, but you didn't really know, like, well, what's the probability of me actually hitting this target? So we can go really into the weeds of what that means, but on the military side, they're really wanted to know, like, what's the probability of actually hitting that target. So your probability with all your information, like, if you're, a half MOA or half mil shooter, which is pretty rare, you could be 1 MOA or 1 mil or even 2 mils, type accuracy, depending on how steady you can hold your rifle or even how steady your position is.
Right.
And maybe I'm not sure if the WES actually has, like, steady of your holdover, because you're obviously, your eye is always trying to find center when it's looking at the target.
Right.
And you kind of have to accept the float.
Yeah.
So that you're like kind of doing this like circle, and you're always kind of trying to find it. So by the time you actually pull the trigger, you could be floating a little bit off from your target. And so as you start to get all that data put into that shot probability calculator that we have on our Leica app, Kestrel actually just came out with a new Kestrel device that actually has WES on board as well. But you can put all your data in there and actually get a probability of 55 to 65 to 75% based on all the data that you have.
Right.
And so what's nice about that is you can actually get feedback to say, well, if you missed the target, you had 65% chance based on the data that you have. And would you be willing to make that shot at the range? You would probably be willing to make that shot.
Right.
In the field, if you're at 450 and it's kind of pushing your ability level a little bit, and you see like a 45% chance of hitting the target, I mean, maybe most people would consider that to be maybe not a high enough probability for them to want to pull the trigger at that point.
No, I think it's the question we all have to be. It's really one of the most important questions in Western hunting right now, because we have, with rifles, I mean, factory rifles nowadays, I mean, my gosh, with factory rifles, factory ammo, a 1-inch gun, a 1 MOA gun is really pretty easy to put together. I mean, it's not a difficult process. 10, 15, 20 years ago, that was custom rifle accuracy. Now it's factory rifle accuracy.
Yeah.
And given with laser rangefinders, knowing a precise distance to a target that extended our range. And now we've got, the ballistic profiles and all the atmospheric conditions that we can calculate. We don't even have to calculate it anymore. We don't even have to think about it. The binocular just gives it to you.
Yeah.
It just gives you a solution instantly. Where is that line? Where is that boundary between? It's not even ethics, because I have guys say, yeah, I know you can ethically make it an 800-yard shot, a huge percentage of the time.
Yep. But
is it still hunting? Are we actually hunting, or are we just shooting?
Yep.
And then to your point, what I'm asking myself is, and what I'm dying to use this for is like, okay, are we okay with 80% chance of success? Because on a steel target, it's just, you don't hear a ding. Yeah. On an animal, it could mean a blown off leg. It could mean a gut shot. Is 80% good? Are we okay with that?
And I think that's to the choice of the shooter too. Mm-hmm. Because you'll probably be in that percentage range most of the time.
Right.
And it's just good feedback for you to be aware of.
Right.
More than to be a deterrent. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yes.
And I feel like if you feel pretty comfortable about, okay, I've made this shot in the past, I've done it at the range, with the same probability numbers, I've hit the target pretty well. My 12-inch plate at 400 yards, I feel pretty confident about with that probability of hitting the target. And I've put down animals before and with that information. But yeah, I feel like it's just like another piece of information that you can use.
Right.
And it's not necessarily like when we talk about ethics or whatever like that, it's interesting how I've been a part of the hunting industry long enough to know that the marketing tactic of it's 1,000 yards out of the box, but now it's like it's 1,000 yards out of the box, but then what's the probability of that 1,000 yards? Right. Is the bigger question.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, I know you live in Arizona, so some of your ranges could be flat, with a 1 degree incline at 1,000 yards with absolutely zero wind, and you've got desert air with no moisture.
Yeah.
You're probably going to take a pretty good shot.
Right.
But then you get in the mountains where there's temperature swings in Montana or Alaska or Northwest Territories. You're in different conditions. You're shooting uphill. You're shooting downhill. You've got bigger crosswinds coming down. So it's interesting to see all the different things that are coming available for the hunter.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. I've kind of adopted a philosophy myself, and I violated that philosophy this year, but quickly caught myself doing it. Is if my son and I came up with this, if you've got everything dialed, you think you have plenty of time to set your shooting position, you've ranged, the temperature, got animals in a good position, everything's calm, and you miss, and you can't explain why. You can't literally say to yourself, I jerked the crap out of that shot. That was that's on me. If you can say, I broke a good shot, but I missed, what information are you going to use to make a correction at this point? It's like, all you know is you missed. And there's obviously some factor that you're unable to predict between you and the target, which is 9 times out of 10 it's wind.
Yeah.
But or air current of some, air current up, down, left, right.
Or technique, there's I took a few classes, and one of my good friend Jared has taught me a lot about positional stuff and just in technique, and you don't realize, I've never been given technique with a rifle. Yeah. Usually it's all about ballistics and it's all about all the other things, but then technique and position and how you are, you want to have your supporting hand on the rear to be touching your actual hand, as opposed to doing something else where it's like it's floating there, if it's in the wrong spot, or you're not lining up properly, if you're not getting behind the gun, you know, your length of pull is totally incorrect, like you bought the completely wrong rifle for the size of human that you are, you know, like just all these other factors that are in play. And so I would say it's, you know, people say like, oh, I don't need that stuff, but it's like, well, maybe just applied ballistics and all that stuff is just like kind of an introduction to maybe larger conversations that you've never had to yourself about, like,
good point,
how am I setting up all my other things to make sure that this tool works properly? Because that's just like the end result, but there's all this positional structure stuff that you maybe haven't even worked on.
Yeah.
So after having gone through all that stuff, it kind of opens your eyes to be like, wow, there's a ton of things to fix. And I think that's why, you know, NRL and NRL has become so popular, at least in the hunting space. You know, I think they went from like 25 different venues to 35 this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. I've not done one yet. We had just had one in Arizona, but it was at the same time as the sheep show, and I was actually hunting.
Yeah.
But because that's the one thing I think is a training tool for anybody is a shot timer.
Yeah.
How much that element of like, I only have 60 seconds to make this shot is about the only way to really replicate that stress you might, even though when you're in the field, you can take all the time you want. You can let the animal walk away if if that happens. But when the steel target's not going to move, you got to find something to add a little bit of intensity to the whole situation. And shot timer is a good way to do that. But yeah, NRL is like, I hope that there's 1,000 shoots in 3 years, because I think it's the next that we've, with companies like Leica, we've solved all your problems for you. We've solved all the problems that you can't control, and now it's the problems that you can control, and that's you, the shooter, the nut behind the trigger. Needs to get better.
Yeah.
And NRL is a good way to do it. It's a good way to find out what your holes are, anyways.
Yeah, NRL Kelowna, BC, like we were talking about the other day, right?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Sponsored by Western Hunt, Journal Mountain
Hunting. Adam Yonke, you better be listening to this. We're coming for you.
Yeah, I think that it definitely taught me. I was an RO at one match up in the Little Belts in Montana. And it was incredible to watch. Everybody has a different system. It's what works for them. But that's the beauty of it, is that it's putting you on the spot. You have to actually find the target. And once you actually find the target, then you got to figure out all your data pretty quickly, and then get your position built, and then engage that first target. And then you might have to completely break down that whole position you've just built, move again, rebuild it, re-engage, and do everything again away, and do it quickly. But also realize that maybe even 10 yards might not be a big difference, so that you can still run your same data based on those positions, and it's not going to be a big change. So it's watching those guys. But back to our point of simplification, you could see some guys just running like a Geovid Pro AB Plus and their Garmin Fortrex watch, and that's like all their information that they're working on.
Yeah.
And they ignore everything else. And you can watch some of those people go through and just like clear the stage.
Yeah.
And they don't look like much.
No.
Like the guy could be in jeans and a t-shirt, but he's like figured out how to find the target, how to get all of his information quickly, make a decision, adjust the turret, and engage the target, and everything's just pretty sound.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch. So I'm not there, but I'm excited to continue to challenge myself to get there. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many. Hunting, you've got hunting skills and shooting skills, and it used to be those were two separate categories, but really they need to be one. People need to understand that shooting skills are absolutely critical. I totally agree with anybody, and if I can get 200 yards and be prone, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to sit there at 500 and go, I got this, But 200, I can take that shot probability pretty close to zero at 200 yards prone.
Right.
So if I can do that, I need to do it. The skills to be able to get from 500 to 200 are the ones we have to continue to work on as hunters, as ethical sportsmen. But the shooting skills are still just absolutely mandatory, because you can still blow a 200-yard shot.
Yeah.
And, it's shooting skills, hunting skills. And fortunately, Leica has solved a lot of your shooting skills complications, and now it's just working on the guy behind the trigger.
Yeah, and was lucky enough to go out with my buddy Jared, who trained me all year to, improve my rifle skills. And so we went on an elk hunt this year, and, we were walking through ravines. We saw this elk herd hanging up on the top of this mountain, and we were kind of moving through the ravines to try and get as close as we could. We got our first position that we thought was a little bit closer was still like 800 yards, and I was like, I really like to move closer to that on my first shot. And so we kept moving down the ravine, and we got into the location. At some point, it just kind of we got to this point where it was like a small degree of on the top of the plateau of the mountain, and so we got as close as we possibly could. But then I had to build a position off of a tripod, and a tripod that wasn't mine; it was his. So I didn't have all the mechanics of his tripod. I had my tripod, and I knew all the mechanics of my tripod. So I had to build a position based off of his, and shooting on a plateau where at the yardage that I was at was just barely clearing the plateau of the mountain. So we were, the elk had to stand up in order for things to work out. Yeah. And so we sat there, we put all of our winter stuff on. It wasn't necessarily super cold. It was actually a pretty nice day after we had a full blizzard in the morning. But we were sitting there and then building position. And had I had not gone through all that before and to shoot off a tripod, that was the first animal I've ever taken that was off a tripod.
Yeah.
And so just going through the all that stuff and shooting it that way and being under stress and doing a few different things with him really allowed me to feel comfortable about that.
Right.
And he's just like, slow and steady, and that was nice to be able to experience applying all the work at the range and then going out to the field and being able to make a good shot. And we shot the bull, and he ran only like 15 yards and just tipped over. And so, yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better, obviously I've killed animals with a rifle, over the 12 years I've been a hunter, but it was nice to actually go through all those things and have all that experience with using my Geovid Pros, shooting my rifle a bunch, being able to make the adjustments, and then I actually had to shoot that off of a tripod off of my knees, trying to balance and make my whole body a tripod as well.
Right.
And then learning to kind of lean into the rifle and find, making sure that all your rifles, traveling in a straight line backwards, and you have all that stuff in your head. So that's all the mechanical stuff before you even get to like the yardage and the applied ballistics and data.
Yeah, it is crazy. When you were telling that story, I was thinking about somebody like doing their first solo on an airplane. I mean, you're with an instructor so many times, and they're helping you work through these issues and work. So it's almost like that see one, do one, teach one. Or at some point now, you're at the point where you feel like I might be able to solo this thing, Right. But it's sure nice having people there, a pro, they can help you work through it, because it's a complicated process.
Yeah.
But it is. The other thing when I get resistance to. I hate even using the word long-range shooting, long-range hunting. Long-range shooting, I'm always great with. Long-range hunting.
We should just call it positional shooting.
Positional shooting I feel like it's really critical. The older we get, you've got to continue to learn. I mean, whatever it is in your life, if you're not challenging your brain to learn new systems and new processes, your brain just slows down. You get old, you die. So continuing to challenge your brain and your body with challenges like this, I think are just critical to longevity and just a healthier brain. And we love to hunt, so why not learn to shoot? Why not take the challenge of this and make that your passion, your next passion?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about just working out in general before we hopped on the podcast, and from my standpoint, like I was in a position where, as a climber, growing up as a climber, a lot of my upper body strength has always been there, but when it came to like lower body strength, like it just wasn't there. And so I actually got introduced to Mountain Tough, and I quickly figured out that I had no leg muscle, and so, which is a critical component to hunting too, right? Yeah. Like you're walking around with your sustainment gear. You could be carrying up from 25 pounds to 35 pounds of sustainment gear, and it's just every day. So if you're out in the backcountry for, your hunt, you could be out for 5 to 8 days of just hunting out of your pack.
Yeah.
So by the time you get done with like walking around enough, it gets quite, you get tired.
Yeah.
And I found myself being tired throughout those years. And so when I actually signed up for Mountain Tough and went through their program for a year, their Backcountry 2.0 program, and then I went into working with them on some of their minimum gear daily stuff, it's impressive to see, like, I went from like a 34 waist skinny, or sometimes even like a 33.
Yeah.
And now I barely fit into a 38.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. I went from like being
built a core.
I built from like going from like 175 and now I'm 220.
Yeah.
And obviously,
and you're a fit 220. That was just to say, you didn't put on 50 pounds of fat.
No, it's not 50 pounds of fat.
No.
But it's like, it's nutrition and it's exercise, but it's like, it's amazing how, putting your body in the position to be able to, when you actually get into the mountains or get into that position, it's okay to like be a really good precision shooter, but if you can't, get your body up the mountain or your mind up the mountain and be able to execute when that time comes,
right?
That's a big deal. And I know that you're obviously also doing something similar for yourself,
yeah.
Especially at your age. It's becoming even more important.
It's so critical. I mean, now I'm 62. And probably if you're listening, you can hear my voice a little raspy, but I've been battling a cold. Now I'll go back to the gym after the shows, and I'm going to be starting back where I left off. I get some catching up to do. Yeah. But it just constantly challenging the body and just flat ass getting stronger. It's just there's a phrase that just strong people are harder to kill, and I'm just a firm believer in that. Just get stronger, especially your legs and core.
Yeah,
because that's what's going to get us up and down the mountain. And it was definitely a weakness for me too. It still is. I mean, it still is. When we start grinding up, if anybody watches Western or TV and they think, oh yeah, Chris, man, he keeps up with those guys, but they don't. You got to remember, I'm the guy in the front. So I get to set the pace, and so I'm keeping up with them. They're just having to stay behind me. It's my pace.
Yeah, totally.
If I had to be behind Nate, it'd be a different deal. But no, I'm impressed. If I'm in my 60s still doing some backcountry hunting, I will be happy about that. Oh yeah, I met a guy here yesterday. He was telling me about his hunts and. He was like, yeah, dude, you old guys, we got to stick together. And he goes, I turned 82 last year, and my jaw just dropped. I'm like, dude, you're 82 and you just did all that?
Yeah.
Because the stuff he was talking about, I'm like, that's pretty good. I might be able to keep up with this guy.
Yeah.
He's 20 years older than I am. I'm like, okay. He's my new inspiration now. I think maybe I got 20 more years to keep grinding this stuff out. But yeah, new challenges.
Yeah, I think even like Randy Newberg went through the program at Mountain Tough to get ready for his Northwest Territories sheep hunt. And that, he had a couple things happen where he definitely needed that, where they got to a point where, I think he ended up actually leaving his rifle down as last glassing spot, and then one guy had a rifle, and then they had to actually like almost run up the mountain to get into position where the sheep was coming across. He's like, before Mountain Tough, like I would never consider that to even be an option.
Yeah.
And for it to be an option, he was like, it changes your mind and what's possible. And so, it's definitely a big part of it all, and it's a big part of all the things we're talking about today. It's the whole hunter, not just like the small thing that we're talking about, which is just a piece of equipment, but it's everything that you're applying to be successful. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, good conversation.
Yeah.
This is, I'm so intrigued. Anything on new products that we can talk about at this point? I mean, I know there's some stuff coming out this year we can't talk about, but things that were just introduced. I know we talked about the integration. Did we miss anything?
Yeah, we have. So we have one of the products that we have right now is the Amplus 6, which is our kind of our standard that we think is the standard for like your for today's standard is a great rifle scope. So we have plenty of different reticles in it, plenty of different zooms in it. It's a really great product as far as glass goes. I've been using that for 3 or 4 seasons now. It's a great piece. And we have our PRS scope that's specifically designed for PRS. So like the whole
What power range was that again? The new the PRS scope?
5 to 30.
5 to 30. Yes, yeah. Nice sweet spot.
Yeah.
Tons of power.
Yeah. Tons of power. Has a great reticle on it. Good Christmas tree. And then exposed turret. It's a great. I built it on my 6.5 Creed for my PRS setup on my MDT. I built I got to build 2 custom rifles this last year, which was really fun.
Oh yeah.
Because even starting there, like if we could talk about that for days, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But building a custom rifle from scratch for my long range setup and then a hunting rifle has been absolutely like a blast. But
yeah.
So I've got my Amplus on my hunting setup. I've got my PRS on my long range setup. Both excellent pieces of glass. And then actually in our app that we have for the Leica app, you can take, once you're actually setting up all your profiles, you can actually choose the reticle that you have on your Leica scope, and then it'll actually go into the app, and then you can actually look at your subtensions.
Yeah.
And it'll give you all your readouts. So like as a backup, back in the day, you used to on your buttstock of your rifle is put all your subtensions on the buttstock of your rifle, so you knew all your ranges when the shots. So like if you range something at 400 yards, you just look at the buttstock of your rifle and be like, okay, I got to hold over there and then shoot the target.
Right.
So it gives you some more information. And then on the Amplus, we have our Ballistic 2 reticle, which is a new option for us. It's a simplified reticle for people in the U.S. that preferred that, as opposed to having a lot of distraction too. So, and you can get into the idea of like cognitive behavior, which is like a whole nother topic.
Yes.
Because some people get really stressed out when there's like a ton of different dots on a reticle. So it's nice. That's obviously why we have so many different options for reticles. It's like some people just like it's too overwhelming.
Oh, I mentioned earlier about my bow, the sight, that I've got 3 pins, but I only shoot with 1 because I get pin confusion really bad under stress. I just finally realized that 3 pins, 2 pins, even 2 pins. I'm going to struggle with holdovers and stuff. I just want 1 pin. And I mean, I'm better with rifle scopes. I mean, I want a little bit more, but yeah, the full blown. There's some reticles out there that would just blow my mind if I had to make a shot under pressure with it.
So we've got the Amplus 6, we got the PRS. We have a new Fortis scope, which is more of like a nod to the old school, which is like a Fortis Glossy. I'm
glad you mentioned it because it's a beautiful scope, and it's a niche-y scope, but man, if you've got a classical Weatherby, high gloss Weatherby that your grandfather passed down to you, this is the scope you need to buy for it.
Yeah, we're working with Rigby on a little project with them for their 250th anniversary. So the Fortis Glossy will go on that 250th anniversary model. Or if you have an H&H or whatever, it's like a perfect piece for that. So it's more of a design for that marketplace, but it's another thing that we're doing there. But we'll have a couple new things that are exciting coming down the line. Like we've got some new heads-up display technology coming. We've got some new spotting scopes, some other new products. So we're excited. So it's been a few since we've done a little bit of a refresh there. But I think as a new team is coming in, there's like a new era for Leica. Me coming in the position for the director of marketing for basically North America. It's a great time, and Leica's really excited about just being involved, especially like on the conservation aspect. We've never really been a part of the conservation voice, and so partnering with a couple of different people, like working with Robbie at Blood Origins, and a few different things like just getting actively involved in the conservation aspect, which is really important for me. When I was at Mystery Ranch, I built a nonprofit program there. It was like 25 different nonprofits that we spent time and money and investment in sharing their message through our channels and what we had available, and getting people involved and being a part of the process. Even me personally, it's a big thing, and that's where Leica has been a part of that, maybe in Europe, but as far as the U.S., we need to obviously make more of a commitment to that. So
we have so many challenges as hunters in a hunting community in the hunting heritage already. I think consumers, we want to know we're partners. We're in this together. We're not just customer manufacturer. There's a relationship there that's deeper than that, and we're all here fighting the same battle. and with the same purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think also from a Leica's perspective, we also make cameras, and
Yes.
I feel like there is also like I feel like a little bit of a responsibility for our brand to highlight the beauty of hunting, whether it be in some of the photography take of animals that are alive, or adventures or experiences that we go on, or killing an animal and hiking it out of the mountains, and the experience of sharing the food with our family, our friends, all of that stuff. I feel like that's more where my brain sits for Leica, and like how do we tell that story of what we're all doing and why we're doing it. So like this year we sponsored the Wild Sheep, which we've done for multiple years, is the annual life photo competition. But being able to tell those stories at a larger, grander scale, and inspire people to get excited, because in my position for marketing for all the years, it's like I'm always constantly looking through images. So I have a good take on like what makes a really good image. So I'm excited to be a part of something that Leica has been known to and is known for good photography. So kind of combining the two and helping kind of continue to tell why we're, as a community, why we're here and why we're doing it.
Yeah, awesome. Ryan, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been good catching up too. But I'm super excited about you being in this position with Leica. I feel like it's a hole that Leica's had for some time. That communication with the hunter, with the customer, and I'm excited to work with you. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So keep an eye, folks, on at westernhunter.net. Keep an eye. We'll have YouTube education stuff for you as new products come out, and of course, it's the website for Leica is Leica USA Sport Optic.
It's just LeicaCameraUSA.com. At some point, we're gonna just go into Leica-camera.com.
Okay.
So it'll all be under one website globally.
Yeah.
Going in the very near future. So Leica Camera USA or Leica-camera.com, and then we also have our Instagram, Leica Hunting USA. Leica Hunting USA on Instagram. So we're trying to kind of rebuild stuff, and things have been kind of dormant for a little bit. So yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, man.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Time to get back to work. The show's going to open here in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, you bet.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Western Hunter Podcast. Thank you for listening. If you would, please go to iTunes or any other platform that you're listening to this podcast on and leave us a review. Apparently that makes a big difference in helping people find our podcast, and I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if you're enjoying the show, not enjoying the show, topics you'd like us to cover, maybe people that you want to hear from. We're always looking for new and different, interesting conversations, so feel free to email me. Send that directly to chris@westernhunter.net. Our sponsorships are huge. Sponsorships are important. It's the only way we can keep going. So for more information on Browning ammunition, Browning guns, you can go to browning.com. Check out that speed line of clothing. You won't regret it. Thanks again for listening, folks. We'll be back in a couple weeks.